What is going on, everyone, and welcome to WreckTalk. I've got the scarf on today, and guys, we're about through. We're into rivalry week now. Regular season all but over. Few more games to play, and we're into week 14 of the ACC Power Rankings. Now, obviously, I'm not a happy camper making this video. If you want to see Wreck just totally crash out and yell into his camera for, I don't know, 15 minutes straight, you can watch that. I even went on sabbatical to the mountains, but we'll get to that in a second. First, let's look at last week's rankings. Is Wreck prophetic or not? I mean, is it not lined up pretty much exactly like it should be? Is it not lined up exactly as it should be? Caught flack for putting my own team in out of ACC championship contender tier. I know ball. I knew with that defense, which we'll talk about, I just couldn't have them as a contender. Look, Virginia and SMU, if they went out, they're in it. And then it's got to be Pitt, Miami. We had Syracuse at the end. We might change that up a little bit, but I'm just real damn disappointed. Anyways, no one can ever accuse Wreck of being a blind homer. I think we can all say that. So let's reset. Let's go to presentation mode, and let's get into this. Now, the Friday night ACC game, if ever there was a cripple fight, if ever there was a football game between two teams that both deserved a loss, that if I was commissioner of college football, I would change the rules to where if you both play as bad as Florida State did on the road at NC State, then you both take a loss. NC State ends up winning this game. 21-11. So they beat them by 10 points. NC State now 6-5, bowl eligible. Shocker. Doesn't look like Florida State's going to a bowl. I don't think they're going to the Swamp next week and getting a win against Florida. And guess who predicted in the preseason, did a whole video about it, accused of being you're just a hater, man. You're just a hater against Florida State. You don't understand us. I predicted Florida State to be 5-7 preseason. So don't ever call me a hater again. You call me a person who knows Florida State better than any Florida State fan does. They're awful. By the way, we'll have the doo-doo tier. We'll get to it in a second. That's going to be Georgia Tech's first quarter offense. Hard to be worse. Or not even offense. First quarter team. If you didn't watch this game, go back and watch like the last 7 minutes of this NC State Florida State game. NC State punts. It's the worst punt known to man. Everyone watching this video could punt better than NC State's punter did in the fourth quarter. It's so bad the Florida State players don't even know where the ball is, hits one of them right on the crown of his helmet, bounces 20 yards directly backwards to the punter. The punter recovered his own punt. I don't know that I've ever seen that, but it didn't stop there. NC State goes 3 and out. They have to punt again. Florida State muffs the punt to give it to NC State like inside the 15 or 10. 2 straight turnovers off punt return for Florida State. A lot of people are saying it. Florida State's not serious about football. They just put out a statement that they're not firing Mike Norvell. There's probably not a Power 4 team that's in more turmoil. And I'm not even like, that's honesty. That's not even me trashing Florida State. There's not a Power 4 team in more turmoil and with a probably less bright future. You might say, oh, well, look at Syracuse, Boston College. No one expects anything of them. You know, Florida State's supposed to be one of these premier programs, and it looks like they're broke and they can't win a football game. By the way, NC State won this game, again, by 10 points. Pause the video. Don't look it up. Take a guess at how many yards of offense NC State had. Pause. Give you a second. NC State won this game by 2 scores. They had 286 yards of offense. Only Florida State can be that shitty. Only Florida State. So, yeah, they're bad. Probably not the worst team in the conference, though. Game that I was at, I was excited about. Pitt at Georgia Tech. If Georgia Tech would have won this game, they would have clinched the ACC. They had everything to play for. Absolutely everything to play for. Everything that Key had done since he had taken over as interim had culminated to this point. And Georgia Tech absolutely diarrheaed down both pant legs. They got down 28-0 in this game. In the first quarter, that's why our doo-doo tier is Georgia Tech's first quarter team. They couldn't play defense, couldn't play offense. Georgia Tech had like 23 yards of offense going into the back half of the second quarter. It was as bad could be. Haynes King threw a 100-yard pick six in this game, probably the worst game Haynes King has had, I don't know, since the Clemson game in his first year or second year. But Georgia Tech rallied. They rallied back to bring it back to a one-score game. And then Pitt runs it right up the middle for 50, 60 yards to basically seal the game, and that's when I left. It's embarrassing. Like I, as a Tech fan, I can take losing. I've seen a lot of it, obviously. But when you come out and just don't even show up for a quarter, this has been the story with Georgia Tech all year, where they just do not show up for an entire half, entire quarter. They play even quarters. They only play odd quarters. They only play one side of the ball. It's bullshit. And I even thought, like, in the third quarter, I was like, even if we come back and win this game, I don't know that we deserve to win an ACC title game or make an ACC title appearance. I mean, it's bad. And it was King's last game. Jamal Haynes, Malik, a ton of Georgia Tech guys that have been there a while. And it just puts a sour taste in my mouth. And then Georgia Tech's got Georgia next week, and I imagine Georgia's going to put up as many points as they want to against this Tech team. A lot of questions for Georgia Tech now about will they fire or retain DC Blake Gideon. We'll have to see. But shout out to Pitt. Pitt came in. Pitt was better prepared. Pitt played better. Hensel, the quarterback, however the hell you say his name, played better. They didn't have their best player either. Reed was out. Backup running back had 201 yards. So, all credit to Pitt. Aside from this, Pat Narduzzi should get an award for dumbest, and I mean dumbest person to ever live on this planet and possibly the universe. Tech had brought that game. It was a 2-score game with 8 minutes in the fourth or something. Tech is trying to block every punt. Tech's in punt block. What does Pat Narduzzi do? Calls a fake punt run and stays with it. Never had a chance of working. I'm not just saying this, one of the dumbest play calls I've ever seen. Pat Narduzzi should get 10 lashes for that. But Pitt, certainly a contender now. Certainly a contender. I'll have to go back and look, too, because they only have one loss. Would it be SMU Virginia over Pitt? Assuming they take care of Miami, we'll have to see. Maybe that'll be a video for another time. Next game, Syracuse at Notre Dame. Syracuse got their doo-doo pushed in. Syracuse is awful. And look, it's been fun to clown Fran Brown because he, says he doesn't shower after losses. What's he taken, 8 in a row or something like this? 7 in a row. 1-4 on the road. And here's the thing. I know Angeli went down, but same with Pitt last year when their quarterback went down and they didn't win another game. Your starting quarterback going down should not mean you don't win another game. I think this does bring some questions with Fran Brown of how does your entire team just implode after your starting quarterback goes down? Because they can't play defense. They special teams, defense, offense, they can't do any of it. But not a lot to talk about there. Syracuse really bad. Miami handled Virginia Tech. Virginia Tech doesn't really care. What is their record now? They're 3-8. They're bad. They're bad. I still think they're better than Florida State and Syracuse, though. But Virginia Tech doesn't care because they might have made one of the what we will say is the best hire of this cycle. They don't care what's going on this year. They're ready for James Franklin to come in. But I will say this, like Carson Beck threw for 320 yards and 4 touchdowns in this game. Miami's just playing as well now as they probably have at any point. They started off hot. Seems like they're playing a lot better. They need some help to get into the ACC title, but they're certainly not out of it yet, especially with Pitt beating Georgia Tech on the road. Louisville's completely imploded. I am almost willing to say, I'm not going to say they're a bad team. I'll put them above NC State. Is that 3 straight losses for Louisville? We talked about it last week. They had 5 personal foul penalties in their loss to Clemson. 2 came in the worst time that they could have, late in the fourth quarter. They couldn't even score a touchdown in this game. Louisville, let that sink in. As high as I've been on Jeff Brom and as good as Louisville's been on offense, 6 points, 2 field goals in this game. SMU absolutely rolled them up. Game was never really competitive. SMU now 8-3, 6-1 in the ACC, and could be in control of their own destiny. I haven't looked into all this. They've got Cal on the road next week, which could be tricky. Cal beat Louisville while they were on the road, but I don't think Cal's a very good team. In fact, Cal just fired their coach. What was it, Justin Wilcox? So I don't know what's going on with Louisville, but SMU certainly in contention here. And I honestly think Pitt's better than them. I'm going to put them behind Pitt. Not much to talk about with Wake Forest at Delaware, but let me ask you this. I think Wake is somewhere in between above average and average, and I am going to put Wake Forest up here. What is the coach for Wake Forest name? I forget. No one thought anything about Wake Forest preseason. They might win 9 games in the regular season. Let's go look at who they've got next week. They've got at Duke, and they could very well beat Duke. Wake could beat Duke next week, a Duke team that's not playing well at all right now, and win 9 games under a first-year head coach when we all thought it would be a miracle if they make a bowl. Whoever their coach is, whatever that guy's name is, and I apologize to Wake fans for not knowing, he should be in Coach of the Year running for what he's done at Wake Forest this year. Hell of a job. In fact, they played Delaware. Ashford went off for 292 yards and 3 touchdowns. But anyways, Duke on the road at North Carolina. One of the better games North Carolina's played this year. North Carolina playing better down the stretch. They're 4-7. North Carolina will not make a bowl, which is embarrassing. Bill Belichick's the second highest paid coach in the conference. He's making $10 million a year. They can't afford to fire him. But they were dumb enough to hire him. North Carolina came back late in this game to make this a game. And admittedly, I didn't watch it. I was at the Georgia Tech Pitt game. But it seems like Duke just lost a stride somewhere here in the season. I would say they're average, and I would put them between Louisville and NC State. Not much to talk about with Clemson at Furman. Clemson becomes bowl eligible with a win over Furman, 6-5, beat them 45-10. I saw there was a little kerfuffle about they scored with like 9 seconds left. Furman's coach said, hey, it's not a big deal. It's football. And I'll make Pete mad again. Yeah, I'm going to keep him as bad, but I think NC State's bad too. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. Last game, rivalry game, Cal on the road at Stanford. Have you guys seen Andrew Luck being interviewed on the sideline? What was it, a scoop and score that got brought back right while he was interviewing this girl on the sideline? Stanford wins 31-10, which is so embarrassing to get beat by Stanford. Let this sink in. California fired their coach after losing to Stanford. Mike Norvell still coaching at Florida State. Sad but true. So we'll put them in the bad here. What, Stanford, 4-7? We'll put them behind Virginia Tech. I didn't put Georgia. We talked about Georgia Tech. I didn't even place them. I'm going to put them as average. I don't. Here, let me flip it here. I'll put Wake there right behind Tech. Tech has the head-to-head victory, but I do not think Tech is playing above average football. Let me be clear about that. Cal's a bad team. Cal's 6-5. I get that they're bowl eligible. There was some of y'all trying to tell me that Sega Patootie Duty was a good quarterback. The hell were y'all thinking? Boston College on a bye this week. I'm going to put them as the worst team in the conference because they don't have a single ACC win. I don't even know. Does Boston College play another ACC game? Let's see. 2025 schedule. They do. They play Syracuse. If they can't find a way to beat Syracuse, they will go winless in the ACC, winless in the Power Four. Obviously, Virginia, this is where it gets a little complicated. For now, I'm going to put Virginia ahead of Pitt, and then SMU, Miami, Georgia Tech, Wake, Louisville, and we'll go with that. So at the bottom of the barrel, we'll have Boston College. I don't think there's any argument there. Syracuse, North Carolina, Florida State, Cal, Stanford, Virginia Tech. At the top, Virginia, Pitt, SMU, Miami, Georgia Tech. So let me know what you guys think. I guess we only got one more of these to do for the season, if you can believe that. Where am I right? Where am I wrong? Did I put your team right in the right place? Did I put them in the wrong place? Let me know in the comments below. You guys have a good one.